We want to welcome everybody to our August edition of the Harvest Baptist Association Third Thursday training. And we try to provide some content that's going to be an encouragement and a help to our pastors and churches in the Harvest Baptist Association and even beyond for anybody else who might be watching. And so today we have Craig Erb. Craig is the lead pastor at First Baptist in Bridgeport, Texas. Their church is part of our association. And we've asked Craig to share about a recent partnership mission project that he participated in. So Craig, thank you so much for being with us. And let me just give you a chance, just kind of introduce yourself, kind of share, just give a brief bio, where you're from, where you are, how long you've been there, those kind of things.
Totally cool. And first of all, I'm honored to get to do this. Our mission experience was great. And so it's an honor to get to talk about it. I grew up in far south, what would be considered Fort Worth, but it's really the far south side of Benbrook Lake in a little town called Whiskey Flats. And lived in Fort Worth and in this area my whole life, except for when I was in the Navy. And in the Navy, I was in Norfolk, Virginia, and then Corpus Christi. I've served here at this church for 18 years. I've been the pastor for 7. And prior to that, I was at First Baptist Crowley. And then prior to that, I was at Southside Baptist in Granbury. And I helped plant a church in Cleburne. And so, but I've been here and I love it. Love this town. It's neat.
Excellent. Well, so you've been a few places, and in your current church, you've served in a handful of roles there. So what has been your experience with short-term mission trips, either as a student minister, taking groups of kids, or even as a pastor? Kind of what's been your experience doing short-term mission projects, various places?
Yeah, I've just really been blessed. I started going on mission trips when I was in the youth ministry, when I was in the youth as a student, way back in the 80s, and been to all over the United States. And as a senior in high school, I got to go to Jamaica on a short-term mission trip. And that was kind of funny because my idea was we're going to go there and have a lot of fun. And it turned out being a lot of fun, but we were in the mountains of Jamaica, nowhere near the ocean. And boy, God opened our eyes to a lot of stuff there. And then throughout my time as youth minister, we've done mostly local in Texas mission trips. About 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, but about 10 years ago, we partnered with Liberty Baptist Association in El Dorado, Arkansas. And from there, we did a children's camp. We made a 5-year commitment to do a children's camp every year. And that was an amazing event for us. And so that comes forward to now. Ever since then, we have been trying to replace the significance that 5-year trip had in us. And it's been very hard, but this year we found the mission trip to Port Arthur. We found it on the associational website, reached out to First Baptist Bowie and partnered with them, and it was really good.
Fantastic. Very, very good. It's neat that you mentioned that your own experience as a student in student ministry, being a participant, kind of started that. I've heard that's my experience as well. My first big mission trip was the summer after I graduated from high school, the summer after my senior year. Yeah. And we went from Florida all the way out to the Four Corners area in Arizona, on the Navajo reservation there, and did Vacation Bible School and some local ministry there. And that same story kind of lit my fire for wanting to go and give and serve and those kind of things. So that's neat to hear that. And I'm sure folks listening to this will many of them probably share that same testimony.
And my first one I went on was probably the summer of my 7th grade year, and we went to Yampa, Colorado, and everything about that trip was just really cool. We met some wonderful people, but I think the thing that stuck out to me is that was the first time that I saw a town that didn't have paved roads and only had one stop sign. It
Wow.
it was a logging town, and never in a million years did I think that existed, but I got to see it, and it's funny the things you remember.
Yeah. Well, and certainly those kind of trips open your eyes to situations and cultural differences that you would never see or run across at home, and
Absolutely.
you see the world and the need out there. So in all of your missions involvement and projects and trips and those kind of things, have you ever partnered with another church? Has it ever been kind of a partnership deal, or has it just been the church that you're with?
Well, the front end of that answer is this is the first time we've ever partnered with another church.
Okay.
The back end of it is in Smackover, we did partner with the association. And so it involved me going there and speaking to the different churches to raise funds for it. Right. But they did not participate. So where we actually worked side by side, this was the very first time.
Yeah, excellent. You said you found it actually on the association website, and this is something that's we've been trying to make this a priority of partnering churches together in ministry. I think so many times we get isolated, and each church is kind of doing its own thing. And obviously, being Southern Baptist, partnership and cooperation is just built into our DNA. And so it seems like that exists on a national level, it exists on a state level, but when you get down to the local level, you don't see a whole lot of real, hands-on partnership. And so it's I'm glad that you guys were able to partner with First Baptist Bowie. So tell us a little bit there in Port Arthur, what kinds of things that you did, what kind of ministry did you do? How did you make connections with the community and serve that church?
Well, that's a wonderful question. And Brother Ken from Bowie, he kind of gave us the desired approach. And as it turned out, the approach was as close to perfect as I can possibly imagine. During the daytime, we did construction work. We did a whole lot of construction work, and Bowie, the guy who led up the construction on that end, his name is Brian, and the person who led it on our end is a guy named Cecil, and they worked together, and we did everything from painting from the front of the church. If you can picture, the worship center is almost like an A-frame, about 50 feet in the air, and we painted from the pinnacle down. We replaced some roofing. We did a whole lot of electrical work, and then Bowie was also in some rooms. This church is set up where they have suites. And so they were working in suites, getting it ready for use, because from the hurricane and the flood and then COVID, the building has fallen in disrepair. The pastor is, bless his heart, it almost feels like the pastor is alone on an island. And so he doesn't have a lot of local support. So Bowie and them were able to go in and redo some rooms. And the way that benefits them is once those rooms are completed, they're going to be able to rent those out to a Christian school, which will help pay the bills, because this church is, they're trying to figure it out. It's in a tough place. And then in the evening, again, Brother Ken's plan was as close to perfect as I can only imagine. We taught things that you wouldn't typically hear taught in a church, and I'll explain that in just a minute. To the men, the women came in and they did a craft and a Bible study. The children did vacation Bible school, and the students did a sports camp. But the men, it's Ken's understanding or it's his conviction, and certainly I share it with him. He was so spot on. Is that we've got to get men to help really grow that church, because Brother Bill, the pastor there, he simply can't do it on his own, and there's more there that needs to be done than a week or a 2-week mission trip can do.
Yeah.
So in order to get men in, the first day we taught how to fillet a redfish. And we have a guy here that actually Brother Ken went and bought redfish, and we came and we had real redfish, and we have a guy here that's pretty handy with the fillet knife, and he taught that, and then he worked in some godly principles about being fishers of men. And it was really cool to see the people, even though they live right there, and the redfish are not 5 miles from their house in the ocean. They were locked on and listening to him. And then we were able to give all the fish away, which was a blessing. The next night, we talked about how to change an electrical plug. Again, these are not things that you think about teaching, but we got people in. And then the third night was about budgeting, and Brother Ken taught that. And that was important, and really he hit hard. As we budget well, we can tithe, and that was very intentional because the church needs financial help. And then on the Thursday, I taught at home fire safety, and again, it was interesting to see the people just paying attention, in all of them. And then the Friday night was a all together, everybody together evangelistic presentation. And I can't brag on Ken enough. That literally he hit it spot on. It was exactly what we needed to do.
Excellent. So do you feel like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all those real practical hands-on things sort of earned that trust to be able to pull them in on that Friday night evangelistic deal?
I think that it definitely did. They saw that we cared. Every one of those, we gave something away. We the night that they talked about electrical safety and changing out a plug, we gave each one of them a meter so that they could check. We wanted them to see that we care, and that this is on purpose. And the truth of the matter is, and I shared this at our church just recently, as we look at it, in a rough situation, we had 4 men that came and brought their families every night, and they stayed.
Wow.
Now, we had 19 women come the first night. I think our average through the week was about 15 women, probably 15 to 20, maybe 30 kids and students. We only had 4 men, but the truth is those 4 men came, they stayed, and they brought their families. And we've got reports back from the church that they have even stayed since we've been gone.
Wow.
It's a praise God moment.
For sure. And I think there's probably so much, so many lessons and so much truth we can even draw from that approach, even aside from, short-term missions elsewhere, to meeting those practical needs, even in our local communities.
Absolutely.
And that's a good reminder to me as a pastor. I know that if there are any pastors watching this later, if you can just find those things that will meet real, practical, concrete needs, there's a way to reach your community in those ways.
One of those that we're seeing in Bridgeport, and I know Decatur's seeing it, and just continuing west, there's a huge migration of people that are coming out this way, and literally between us, Decatur, and Bowie, there's probably 40,000 homes coming in.
Wow.
And one of the things that we know is that most of those are based on the prices of the houses. Most of them are first-time home buyers. And so we're looking at it and say, okay, we need to do the budgeting thing that Brother Ken did. We need to do some version of that here, or possibly Financial Peace University. but it meets a practical need that gets people in the church.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So were there any unique benefits to partnering with a sister church, partnering with Bowie? So obviously some of these things you might have been able, you might be able to duplicate this just with your church, but the experience of actually partnering with a sister church, what were the unique blessings and benefits that came from that?
To say that there were unique blessings is like the understatement of the world of history. First off, we fellowship, and I feel that I have some close friends in Bowie now. It was really interesting how small the world is. I'm doing the wedding of one of my former students, and the lady in Bowie who loves his family was on the mission trip, so we got to fellowship. My son's most favorite boss, his brother, goes to Bowie. He was on the mission trip, and so the fellowship was just incredible. And truly, I feel that I have friends in Bowie that we're all in the same boat. That is absolutely priceless. But then also, we shared resources. And this is the part that I think, having never worked with another church outside of that Liberty Association, having never worked with another church, I saw something that I just never realized, and that was the sharing of resources. Bowie invests literally thousands of dollars into this trip. We invested thousands of dollars. I'm going to guess that between the two of us, we probably invested somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 on this. But when we got down there and did the work, we had a dollar for dollar return on the amount of work that we were able to do down there. I talked to several people from Bowie and people from Bridgeport who understand construction. And the work that we did in that 1 week probably would have cost them over $30,000.
Wow.
And so we had a dollar for dollar return on just the construction part. And that has nothing to do with what happened in the evening. And so for us, I look at it, and I think the greatest benefit or the greatest benefits is the fellowship, the sharing of resources. The actual amount of work that we were able to do. If First Baptist Bridgeport had gone down there and tried to accomplish the same amount of work by ourselves, literally it probably would have taken most of the whole summer. But because they were able to work and they worked in an area of expertise, we were able to work. We had people who were on the roof. Because all of us were working together, we accomplished a ton in a week. And again, probably accomplished about $30,000 worth of work in that 1 week. And again, that's construction work. That doesn't account for the fact that all that we did in the evening. And I can tell you confidently that all that we did in the evening, First Baptist Bridgeport could not have done on their own. And I don't believe First Baptist Bowie could have done on their own, because we had so many people that, and we were having to go in different directions. So I can't stress how much of a blessing it was. And just being able to do so much, and all the while fellowship with new brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So let me talk for a minute about that fellowship aspect, because there might be some pastors in our association that watch this later down the road. And I'm sure as well as I do, and as any of our pastors do, it's real easy to feel isolated. Yeah. It's real easy to feel like you're on an island, like you're doing this on your own. But there's something that happens, and with your mission opportunities, you can probably, testify to this as well. There's something that happens when you labor with somebody in kingdom work that knits hearts together. We've experienced it even in our church when we've gone to do things. I have a special relationship with those people in our church that I don't have with other people, not because I don't want to, but we've worked side by side, shoulder to shoulder with one another.
Yeah.
And then when you expand that out to say, well, these two sister churches, there's a bond now that exists between you guys and First Bowie that you don't have with other churches, simply because you've done that hard work. And
Yeah.
so I would encourage, and I'm sure you would too. If there are pastors out there who feel like you're isolated, like you're sort of in this by yourself, if you would look at doing something like this, that can provide encouragement, it can provide support, it can provide fellowship. Can you speak any more to that?
I definitely would say that, and I agree totally. You get down there and you work, you sweat together. There is a bond that is formed, and I would go on, for those pastors who may watch this in the days to come. I would encourage people to intentionally get involved, and the reason being is we partnered with them, and when we pulled our resources together, we were able to do so much more. I know that when I started in youth ministry back in 1995, my budget for the whole year was $1,200, and if I wanted to do a mission trip, it had to come out of that. Well, maybe budgets are bigger, but even still, by partnering, you can come alongside and say, hey, I'm going to do what I can and you do what you can, but we're all in this together. We were in a place where we were able to invest. Bowie was in a place where they were able to invest, and I intentionally don't share how much each other invested, because that part's not important. What's important is that we were able to come along, and maybe there's a church out there that says, well, okay, y'all invested whatever amount, we don't have that much. Okay, invest what you can and let's work together. It's kind of like the parable of the talents, we invest what you can, and by working together, we can do so much more with what we invest.
Yeah, I think too, even beyond financial investment and beyond material resources, talking about the human investment, the number of people. So I think that might be what keeps some smaller churches from really having a heart for missions. Is I said, we don't really have enough people to put together a project like that. We don't have enough people to send somewhere. We might have only 2 or 3 people who would be interested in a trip like that. Well, a trip like you guys went on, that's easy to plug, 3 people in from this church, or 2 folks in, or even if there's 1 person from a church to plug them in, and you're able to contribute in that way, contribute labor,
Yeah, I can speak like on the mission trip to Port Arthur, we easily could have plugged in 15 more people or 20 more people. We were shorthanded.
Yeah,
we easily could have done that. I can go all the way back to when we used to go to Smackover, Arkansas. 1 person to help would have made a huge difference. And if we had 15 churches that provided 2 people, the ministry would have been tenfold more than what we could have possibly done. And that's true for Port Arthur too.
Yep. And that's a great word. So again, I'm addressing the pastors that are watching this. If you've got 2 people in your church who would be willing to go on a trip like this, there's a place, and we can absolutely use them. And have you guys decided, or has First Baptist Bowie said anything about continuing this in coming years? Or
well, First Baptist Bowie, I know that they're talking through it, and I don't know where they're going to land. This was our first year. And I think the attitude on our end is that probably we're going to go back next year. I had a great visit with Brother Bill, the pastor down there, and I feel like we will probably go back next year and see what we can do. I have no idea what Bowie's going to do. I hope they go, because it was fun. But I also respect their decision on what they want to do with their mission.
Sure.
But I will tell you that if we go back next year, it will be open to all the churches again.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking for the association, but I know the association agrees with that. But it will be open, and pastors, if you got a person or two people, then send them. I fully anticipate us going back at least one more year after my conversation with Brother Bill at the church there.
Wonderful. Well, as you guys talk about that, and as Bowie talks about that, we will certainly get that information and make that available to our churches. And really what our hope and our prayer is association wide is that this would just be the first of many projects like this.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be just Port Arthur with First Baptist Bowie taking the lead, but that we might have projects all over our associational region, projects throughout the state, even projects across the country and even around the world that we might be able to open up.
I think it would be so very cool if churches and pastors, as they plan mission trips, keep in mind that there are other churches who may not have the resources, or they may only have those one or two people that want to go. Why not open our mission trips to them and say, y'all come be a part of it? We're in this together. We're in a war, and we can't win it on our own.
And like you mentioned with that diversified resources produce, they multiply the results, right? So you mentioned the guy that you had that was handy with a fillet knife, and then you got Ken, who has really a heart and a mind for budgeting. And so it doesn't have to be those things. And again, I was speaking to pastors, find the things that your church members do well, find the things that they're gifted in, and run with those things. And again, if there might be some things, I have some guys in my church that do that, or even ladies that they do well, that if I partner with another church, we're going to open up an entire new area of expertise and interest that they might have.
Absolutely. We had one guy that he is a brilliant electrician, and he sells himself short. But one of his greatest contributions was he got there and he said, "I'm not afraid of heights." And we're like, all right, then get on the lift.
50 feet up.
You know what? We got the front end of that church painted because he wasn't afraid of heights.
Yeah.
It's just, everybody has a gift that they can use.
For sure. And I like the fact that you mentioned too, it wasn't the results that you experienced weren't like addition, 1 + 1 + 1. It was multiplied. It was exponential.
Absolutely.
That you wouldn't think you put two churches together, you don't just get double the results. You might get 4 times the results.
Right. And I will tell you, I think if we were to evaluate kind of through that lens, I think we would see that we really did get 4 or 5 times more because we partnered than what we would have just 2 separate churches.
Yeah.
The amount of work, the amount of people that we were allowed to have touches with, I think you're exactly right on that.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's a great word. And I mean, that's being Southern Baptist churches, that's kind of what we're built on anyway, this cooperative effort and giving to the cooperative program, that together we can do more than we can individually. So again, that should kind of be already built into the DNA of any churches that are Southern Baptist. That should be the most natural thing for us to do, is look for ways to partner to multiply that impact.
Yes.
So, well, let me wrap up with this. What are there any specific things that we can pray for, really in regard to the church down there at Port Arthur, for the pastor and for the ongoing ministry of that church?
Absolutely. That area has experienced a significant demographic change. And so Brother Bill down there is doing everything he can to find, that hook that's going to work. But the demographic change is such that he desperately needs some 4 or 5, or for starters, 4 or 5 men who are going to buy in and reach out to their neighbors.
Yeah.
And I think at a minimum, that's what has to happen. I don't take things out of God's hands in any way, but if he doesn't have those 10 people, the closing date is probably getting real.
Yeah.
He needs those to reach that community. And that Brother Ken, that was his whole impetus for having us do these classes that you wouldn't normally see at a church, just to try to draw those men in. And again, we had throughout the week, we had 4 men that brought their families and they stayed, and that was a victory. And then on the outset of that, one of those guys has stayed with his whole family, and another one is coming back. They also work with the offshore drilling, so they're in for like 7 days and gone for 14, or it's like 21 and 14 or something like that. So it's hard to judge the impact that we've had, since some of them probably shipped out the following day. So
very good. So again, if you're watching this and you are led to pray for that church down there at Port Arthur, and tell me what the name of the church is.
Memorial Baptist Church.
Memorial Baptist. So pray for Pastor Bill down there.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, and his wife is Beverly.
Okay. Pray for Bill and Beverly, and just for their ministry in that community that has been, first of all, devastated by hurricanes, and then obviously, like everybody else, hit by COVID, but also just sort of the cultural demographic changes in that community. We'll pray that God would bring committed, faithful men to be able to build that ministry on.
Absolutely.
Yep. Was there anything else that you'd like to share that we either left out, or anything else that is worth mentioning?
I would just close with this, that please continue to promote these mission trips. And as pastors, let's see who we can partner with, and who, we need to open those up to maybe churches, like you said, that have 1 or 2 people that want to go. We need to work together and accomplish a lot for God's kingdom.
Fantastic. Well, Craig, again, I appreciate you being on with us. I appreciate the stories that you've told, the testimony that you've given, and I hope that it's an encouragement for anybody who's watching. So we'll see you next month for our 3rd Thursday training. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, Craig.
Yes, sir.